Conkeldurr survives on a sliver of health. Conkeldurr retaliates with Hammer Arm. Oh my god. Hello everyone! In this video I'll be attempting a Pokémon Black 2 Dragon type only run. But before we get into that, I've noticed that 94% of my viewers aren't subscribed. So subscribe, because it's the nice thing to do. Anyway, the general rules for my definition of a hardcore Nuzlocke are listed down in the description. And on screen are all viable encounters. Also, I've used the universal randomizer to replace Tepig with Axew so that my rival gets Samurott with Ice Beam to add just a little more challenge. Also, some keen viewers may have realized that I could get a Trapinch earlier than I get Axew, but since Trapinch evolves into a Vibrava at level 35, Axew would actually be the earliest Dragon type encounter available. As per tradition, I'll have a theme for what I name my Pokemon in this run. If you can guess what it is, leave your answer in the comments below. And make sure to watch the video to the very end because this run included some insanely close calls and exciting battles. I name myself Twig and my rival Darkrai, and so let's get into this. I meet up with Bianca and get myself an Axew that I name Galahad. Galahad actually has an adamant nature, which is probably the best luck I've had with nature since ever. Too bad she has the ability Rivalry though, which is far worse than the alternative Mold Breaker ability. It is then time for the good old tackle off against Darkrai, which I end up winning as always. I head to Aspertia City's new gym where I challenge Cheren. Having an Axew this early on though is almost unfair because Galahad one-hits both of Cheren's Pokemon, so the battle is over before it even started. So I then head over to Verbank City to challenge Roxy in her poison types. Her coughing is an easy one-hit with Dragon Rage, and so she only has Whirlipede left. Whirlipede barely lives a Dragon Rage, so Roxy heals her, but that only prolongs the inevitable as 2 more Dragon Rages seals the deal. I then stop by Pokestar Studios to shoot a movie. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
A single hit KO to my Pokemon. Prepare to be finished.
Bring it on.
After breaking several records in the box office and becoming a critically acclaimed actor, I set out on a world tour around Unova. First stop is Castelia City. Once there, I challenge Burge. Or Bug? Or maybe... Bruh. This could be quite hard though, since I have to take out 3 Pokemon with just an Axew. I send out Galahad first against his Swadloon, but 2 Dragon Rages easily deal with him. Dwebble is out next, but a couple turns later he also goes down. Last out is Burge's ace, Leavanny. Galahad and Leavanny trade a few hits until they're both on low health. I do the only thing I can do here and press Dragon Rage, praying that another cut won't take Galahad out. Whoa, okay, that was close. Galahad connects with another Dragon Rage, and that wins me the battle. I then head to the Desert Resort to catch a Trapinch. I name him Lancelot. Lancelot has a neutral nature, which is actually really good for Flygon. I won't actually use Trapinch yet since a lot of you guys seemed upset that I used him in my previous Dragon run when he wasn't a Dragon type yet. So, happy now? Anyway, I head to Nimbasa to challenge the next gym, but first a word from Unova's biggest fast food chain. Have you ever wanted to shove a big ol' sandwich down your throat? Well, head down to the Battle Subway. May potentially cause Sugba, Ligma, Cooties, and or foot lettuce. Subway, please sponsor me. It is then finally time to challenge Electric type gym leader Elisa. Since I'm not using Lancelot yet, I once again have to beat her with only Galahad. Let's see if I can pull this off. Elisa sends out her Emolga, but after I deal some damage with Dragon Rage, she Volt Switches into Flaffy. I take out Flaffy with a Dragon Rage to avoid static, and so Elisa's Emolga comes back out, but 1 more Dragon Rage is enough to take her out as well. Last out is Zebstrika, who does outspeed, but luckily a Pursuit doesn't do much damage at all. I connect with Dig, and it's enough to win me the battle. Next up is probably the hardest battle yet, Gym Leader Clay. The level cap isn't high enough for Lancelot to evolve, so I once again only have an Axew to do this. Additionally, Clay has a Krokorok with Intimidate that likes to use Bulldoze, so setting up could be difficult. Clay leads with Krokorok, thereby lowering Galahad's attack. I still managed to set up a few Dragon Dances, and so after a couple turns, 1 Dragon Claw is enough to take out Krokorok. Sandslash is out next, but knowing that I need to outspeed Excadrill if I even want to consider winning, I go for another Dragon Dance. To my dismay, Sandslash neutralizes my speed boost with Bulldoze, and brings me dreadfully close to wiping. I do the only thing I can do and go for Dragon Claw, which crits! I don't actually know if this would have KO'd otherwise, but I'll certainly take it. Last out is Excadrill, and I've more or less given up at this point. There is just no way Galahad outspeed. No way I actually do outspeed somehow and end up taking out Excadrill with a single dig. What a battle. Now, I finally get a major upgrade to my team as Galahad evolves into Fracture and Lancelot into Vibrava. That was much needed and long overdue. After raising my team to the level cap, I challenge Skyla. Galahad sits up with Dragon Dance a few times and takes out Swoobat with Dragon Claw. Next out is Swanna, but another Dragon Claw takes her out as well. Last out is Skarmory, but because of her great typing, Galahad has nothing to hit her hard with. A Dragon Claw doesn't take her out, but to my relief, Skarmory only goes for agility. Galahad's been dancing so much though that she still outspeeds, taking out Skarmory with a final Dragon Claw. I head to Undella Town, and fun fact, Cynthia actually lives here, so let's go say hi. Oh my god, Cynthia, what happened? Has it been that long since Gen 4? Even as an old lady, she still terrifies me. On my way to Apollucid City, I run into my next encounter, an Altaria. I catch her and name her Arthur. Arthur has a bold nature, which is actually pretty good. Lancelot also evolves into a Flygon, and Galahad evolves into Haxorus. All of a sudden, my team is looking like an absolute menace. With my upgraded team, I challenge Dragon-type leader Drayden. This is for the title of Univa's best Dragon Tamer. First up is Druddigan, so I lead with Arthur and set up with Cotton Guard just to see what happens. Druddigan does go for a Dragon Tail, switching me into Lancelot, which is totally fine. Lancelot then goes for a Dragon Tail himself, bringing out Haxorus. Haxorus almost always goes for Dragon Dance first though, so this is a perfect opportunity to yeet him out of here. Huh, guess that worked too well. Drayden's own Flygon is out next, so Lancelot uses Dragon Tail again just to mess with the old geezer. Druddigan comes back out, but one more Dragon Tail takes him out too. Finally, Flygon comes back out, but one final Dragon Tail finishes him off and wins me the battle. That was such a random fight, and surprisingly the easiest gym battle so far. There is not much to do after this, other than head straight for the final gym, so that's what I do. I plan on using the same strategy that I did in my Black 2 ground-type run, which is to predict Caracosta's Shell Smash by using Dragon Tail, but Caracosta actually goes for Scald immediately, which does a decent amount of damage. Caracosta is then switched out for Jellicent. Lancelot uses Crunch, which ends up being a critical hit, taking out Jellicent in one hit. Wailord is out next, so Lancelot just goes for a Dragon Tail again, switching Wailord out for Caracosta. Lancelot is pretty low on health at this point, so I decide to switch him out for Arthur. Arthur uses Cotton Guard just to be safe, and then takes out Caracosta with a Dragon Pulse. Wailord comes back out, but he can't really do much since Arthur is just that beefy, so a couple more Dragon Pulses take out Wailord. And that means we've collected all of Univa's badges. I board the Team Plasma Frigate as I'm met by Zinzalin. Now, normally he's a total pushover, but he actually has a team of Ice types, which is pretty scary for my dragons. I take him on together with Darkrai. Galahad manages to take down the first Cryogonal with a Dragon Claw. When the next one comes out though, I remember that Zinzalin has a Weavile that Galahad needs to outspeed, so she goes for Dragon Dance to boost her speed, as Cryogonal just goes for Light Screen. A single Dragon Claw takes out Cryogonal on the next turn, and Weavile finally comes out. Because of the Dragon Dance boost, Galahad outspeeds the Weavile and takes him out. I then run into a legendary Pokemon. I make my way over to the Giant Chasm to take on Team Plasma boss Colress. His Magneton is sturdy, which means a dig leaves him on 1 HP. Colress heals, but Lancelot brings him back down to 1 HP with another dig. On the next turn, Lancelot takes down Magneton with a Crunch. Next out is Magnezone, but since Lancelot is on quite low health, I switch him out for Arthur. Magnezone actually goes for Explosion, which could have been real bad had it crit. Colress sends out Metang next, so I switch into Galahad and set up with Swords Dance. One dig is then enough to take out Magnezone. Klinklang comes out next, which is problematic since it's holding an air balloon, meaning dig won't affect it. Galahad has to go for a non-effective Dragon Claw. Well, I guess that worked out well. Beheeyem is out next, but one Dragon Claw finishes him off and wins me the battle. I then have to fight Ghetsis and his Black Kyurem. Ghetsis could be really tough since he has a Hydreigon that hits like a truck. First, I have to deal with Kyurem though. I sound out Galahad and go for Dragon Claw, which leaves it on like 1 HP. Kyurem doesn't hit very hard back though, so another Dragon Claw takes him out. Bitter and frustrated, Ghetsis has no choice but to challenge me now. He leads with Cofagrigus and I lead with Galahad. Galahad sets up with Swords Dance and Cofagrigus tries to poison her, but I actually give Galahad a Petra Berry to counter that, so Galahad is cured immediately. On the following turn, a single Dragon Claw takes down Cofagrigus. Ghetsis sends out his menacing Hydreigon, but because of the setup, one Dragon Claw finishes him off before he can do anything. Seismitoad is out next, but he too falls to a single Dragon Claw. Ghetsis sends out Drapion, but he also goes down to a dig. Electros is out next, but gets KO'd to another Dragon Claw. And so finally, Ghetsis sends out his Toxicroak. One dig later, and the battle is won. Some people complain about setup moves, but when you only have access to 3 Pokemon in a hardcore Nuzlocke, there really isn't much else you can do. I finally get access to Victory Road, but before I go anywhere, can someone please tell me why this place looks like 5 wars have been fought here when the previous Victory Road was replaced like 2 years ago? Anyway, I head over to the cave area in Victory Road where I find myself a Druddigon. I catch her and name her Joan of Arc, but I'll call her Joan. Joan has a neutral nature which I'm impartial to. She also has the ability Rough Skin, which I can definitely work with. Next, I'm challenged to a final clash against my rival Darkrai. I lead with Joan as he leads with Unpheasant. Unpheasant uses Swagger, which actually gives Joan an attack buff. Thankfully, Joan doesn't hurt herself and hits hard with the Dragon Claw. Unpheasant goes for a U-turn but hurts himself because of Joan's Rough Skin ability, taking him out. Samurott is out next but goes for Revenge instead of Ice Beam for some reason, so Joan gets to hit first. Samurott once again goes for Revenge on the next turn, and so Joan outspeeds once more, taking out Samurott with another Dragon Claw. Bufalon is out next, but after hurting himself to Rough Skin and Joan hitting back hard with Revenge, he also goes down. Simisage is out last, so I switch into Arthur. Simisage has Rock Slide, so Arthur sets up with Cotton Guard to avoid taking too much damage. 2 more Flamethrowers take down Simisage, once again verifying my superiority over Darkrai TV. Do go subscribe to him though, his content is not half bad. It's time to take on the Pokemon League. I choose to challenge Grimsley first, since he usually isn't too much of a challenge. His Liepard uses Fake Out, but I've equipped Joan with a Rocky Helmet, so it hurts Liepard more than it hurts her. This allows Joan to easily take out Liepard on the next turn. Next out is Crocodile, but since she has Dragon Claw, I choose to switch into Arthur to be safe. Crocodile still does a decent amount of damage. I go for Cotton Guard, forgetting that I didn't equip Arthur with a Citrus Berry this time, so this turns out to be a real bad move. I do the calculations though, and apparently Arthur should survive another hit. Whew, and he barely does. After dealing some damage with Arthur, I once again switch into Joan to deal some damage through Rough Skin and Rocky Helmet. After that, I once again have to switch into Lancelot. He's finally able to take down the pesky Crocodile with a Dragon Claw. Next out is Scrafty. After wearing him down for a while, a final Dragon Claw takes him out. Grimsley sends out Bisharp last, so I switch into Galahad, since Lancelot had its speed severely lowered from Rock Tomb. Galahad finally takes down Bisharp with a dig. Next up, I choose to fight Caitlyn. She leads with Musharna, so Galahad starts setting up with Swords Dance as Musharna goes for Yawn. Galahad has a Chesto Berry equipped though, so she wakes up immediately and takes down Musharna with a single Dragon Claw. Sigilif comes out next, which is somewhat nerve-wracking as she has Ice Beam. Thankfully, Galahad outspeeds and takes her down in one hit. Reuniclus is out next, but the Fetus doesn't stand a chance against Galahad's claws. Last out is Gothitelle, but one more Dragon Claw finishes her off. Next, I fight Marshall. He sends out Throw first. Throw has Bulldoze, which also lowers the speed stat, so predicting that's what he's gonna do, Galahad uses Dragon Dance to counteract speed drop. After doing this twice, a single Dragon Claw is enough to KO. Mian Shao is out next, but another Dragon Claw takes him out as well. Marshall sends out his Conkeldurr, so I go for Dragon Claw, expecting it to KO. But Conkeldurr survives on a sliver of health. Conkeldurr retaliates with Hammer Arm. Oh my god. At that moment, my pulse went through the roof. since I honestly need Galahad if I even want a chance at winning the champion fight. Anyway, Galahad does manage to take out Conkeldurr on the next turn. Lastly, Sawk comes out, but since he has Sturdy, I switch into Joan. Sawk is damaged by Rough Skin, plus Rocky Helmet, which breaks his Sturdy, and so on the next turn, Joan is able to KO him. Finally, it's time to face Chantal. She sends out her Cofagrigus and tries to burn Arthur with Will-O-Wisp, but it really doesn't matter too much since Arthur is focused on special attack. After hitting Cofagrigus with a few Dragon Pulses, Arthur is able to take her down. Driftblim is out next, so I send out Galahad. Galahad goes for Dragon Claw, which is enough to KO. Chantal sends out Golurk, so I switch into Lancelot. This ends up being an amazing switch, since Golurk went for Earthquake, which doesn't affect Lancelot. Lancelot hits 2 super effective crunches, which is enough to take out Golurk. Last out is Chantal's ace, Chandelure. Lancelot uses Dig, which is enough to take out Chandelure in 1 hit, and that is the Elite Four dealt with. It's time to face Champion Iris. Iris mainly focuses on dragon types, but also has a scary looking Lapras in the back, which is definitely trouble for me. She leads with her absolute powerhouse of a Hydreigon, so I'm left with no choice but to send out bulky Arthur. Hydreigon hits hard with Dragon Pulse, which takes Arthur to about half health, but thanks to a Citrus Berry she heals back up. This allows Arthur to take another hit and retaliate with a Dragon Pulse, which thankfully takes down Hydreigon. Iris sends out her Lapras now, and honestly, if I want to win this, I have to let Arthur go. And so I do. I send out Galahad next and set up with Swords Dance since I know she can tank an Ice Beam. And she does. Barely. On the next turn, all I can do is hope a Dragon Claw is enough to KO. And thankfully it is. Archeops is out next. I pray that Galahad with fully invested Speed EVs can outspeed Archeops here. And she actually does. After taking out Archeops, Druddigon comes out next. Once more, Galahad uses Dragon Claw, and once again, it one-hits Druddigon. Iris sends out Aggron, so Galahad goes for Dig. Because Aggron doesn't have the Sturdy ability, she gets 1 hit KO'd. Finally, Iris sends out her ace, Haxorus. Wanting to spare Galahad, I switch into Joan. This turns out to be a great move since Haxorus goes for Dual Chop, which activates Rough Skin and Rocky Helmet twice, taking her to half health without Joan even doing anything. Joan is on low health though, so I switch into Lancelot, thinking he could take a few hits. I was totally wrong though. Lancelot sadly gets knocked out after having fought valorously since the start of this run. I send out Galahad instead, and press Dragon Claw. And so we did it. We beat the game with only dragon types. That was a fun and surprisingly hard run. If you're still watching at this point, I want to say a special thank you. I appreciate all the support I've been getting. I have a lot of super fun content coming up in the near future, and I'm so excited to post them soon. So just double check to make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.